folks, and welcome to this edition of Story Summary, where we retell the stories of video games. Today we'll be taking a look at the second creation from Supergiant Games, a little game known as Transistor. Before we get going, a few notes. This retelling will be as neutral as possible, meaning that I will not comment on the quality of the various narrative points. If you want to know my opinion on this game's story, I've already done a review of it, so if you're interested in checking that out, I'm gonna put an annotation on the screen now. Secondly, this summary will go through the game's story from beginning to end. That means that there are gonna be some major spoilers, so if you intend to play this game for its story, then I suggest you proceed with caution. Now, with that out of the way, this is the story of Transistor. The story begins with a young woman kneeling in front of a body. The body has been impaled by a large, strange-looking sword.
Hey, Red. We're not gonna get away with this, are we?
Red pulls the sword from the body, and with that, her and the man trapped inside the weapon set out on their journey. The blade she now wields is known as a transistor, and it pretty quickly becomes obvious that it's a weapon of formidable power. Not before long, Red is attacked by a group of mysterious robotic beings. These beings are collectively known as the Process, and from this point on, they will harass Red all throughout her journey. Using the power of the transistor, however, Red makes short work of them. As they push on, more is revealed about the city they find themselves in. It's a sprawling futuristic metropolis known as Cloudbank. There is, however, something that sets it apart from many other similar settings. Cloudbank is extremely interchangeable. With a flick of a button, you can change pretty much anything, like the color of the sky, the weather, when the seasons are to change. In other words, nothing is left to chance. And even more interestingly, all of these changes are dictated by the population. The inhabitants of the city get to vote on literally everything. This is done by accessing various terminals scattered throughout the city. If there is a new poll going on, the citizens will be notified. All in all, Cloudbank should be the perfect city. However, as it stands now, it seems to be in complete disarray. The streets are completely deserted, and the process is running amok. What has led to the city being in this state is yet unknown. As they make their way through the streets, Red and her companion occasionally come across the bodies of people who supposedly went missing some time ago. Even though they're dead, the transistor seems to be able to communicate with what's known as their trace. Their traces are then absorbed into the transistor, making it even more powerful. Whilst trying to find a way to escape the city, Red comes across some posters depicting her. It turns out that Red is one of the city's most influential singers, and that someone has taken her voice, which explains why she hasn't talked up until this point. Even though she's clearly distraught, Red pushes on, and eventually comes across an abandoned bike. Her companion gives her instructions on what roads to take if she wants to escape the city. He also tells her to under no circumstances turn to the left, as that will take them back into the heart of the city. As they ride on, it becomes obvious that Red decided to turn to the left anyway. It would seem that she has some unfinished business with some people in the city. The man inside the transistor refers to them as the Camerata. The Camerata are apparently looking for both Red and the transistor. It turns out that they are also the ones controlling the process. And so, Red and her companion are gonna try to track down the members of the Camerata, there are 4 of them in total, in order to get some answers and try to find out what exactly is going on. They decide to head for the concert venue known as the Empty Set. The Empty Set is also the place where the incident that started this whole thing took place. As they approach, they come across yet another body. After communicating with the trace, the man trapped inside the transistor says that this man was killed by the process, which means that the robots are now apparently also targeting civilians. Troubling, to say the least, as the Camerata seem to be getting more and more desperate. They approach the main stage, and it's now revealed what led to Red losing her voice and the man getting trapped inside the transistor. The night before, Red was playing a concert. As she was leaving, she was attacked by the Camerata. For some yet unknown purpose, they intended to use the transistor to assassinate her. According to the information they had, Red was supposed to be alone at this time. However, there was another person present. Red was there with her lover, and as he saw the blade flying towards her, he intervened. As such, he took the mortal blow that was intended for her. After the man perished, he, Red, and the transistor was somehow transported out of the venue. Similarly, ownership of the transistor had somehow been transferred from Grand Kendrel, leader of the Camerata, to Red. Where Red came to, she found her lover dead, yet the sword was speaking with his voice. Before she removed the sword from its body, Red tore off her long dress and broke the heels of her shoes, all in order to be able to move around better. And so, that is what led to the situation that they now find themselves in. Back at the set, they find the corpse of a Sybil Rice. Sybil, as it happens, is a member of the Camerata. She was their eyes and ears, and it was she who provided the information that Red would be alone on the night of the attack. Sybil was supposedly very infatuated with Red, and it's possible that she provided the rest of the Camerata false information in order to be able to assassinate her lover. Now, however, it looks as if though her body is being consumed by the process. As they approach her, she turns into a robotic monstrosity and begins attacking Red. After a fierce struggle, Sybil falls to the Transistor. They absorb her trace, and it gives them a lead onto where the other Camerata members are hiding. They leave the empty set to head downtown. As luck would have it, they come across an abandoned speedboat, which they use to travel down the canals. Whilst traveling, the man trapped inside the Transistor realizes that the Camerata were hunting people. He still hasn't figured out why, nor why Red would be on their hit list. However, once they find Grant, the leader of the Camerata, they intend to get the answers that they seek. Once they reach their destination, they get out of the boat and proceed on to the Canal District. It's here that they notice how severe the process infection has become. At this point, even buildings have started to become affected. Clearly, they are running low on time. They push on towards Bracket Towers, where 2 of the 3 remaining Camerata members are supposedly hiding. Eventually, they reach the district known as High Rise. This is also apparently where Red's apartment is located. And so, they stop by there real quick, as Red has a bite to eat. As they leave, she intentionally locks herself out. They push on, but as they approach Bracket Towers, something unexpected happens.
Oh, Red, I'm starting to lose you.
After they encounter the mysterious beast, the Transistor starts behaving oddly. The blade itself starts glowing ominously red. And it soon becomes obvious that the man trapped inside it is also affected by the presence of the monster. His speech slows down, and the things he talks about makes him seem distant, like he's heavily intoxicated or something. He still appears to be aware of his surroundings, but he's nowhere near as sharp-witted as he was before. After a while, they come across a terminal that asks the user if he or she is experiencing any of the known symptoms for what is known as process infection. This infection appears to be what Sybil suffered from, and if this has spread to other citizens as well, then the situation is more dire than they thought. As she ascends towards her goal, Red is constantly harassed by the giant monster, which has been dubbed the Spine. After a while, the Spine decides to go for an all-out attack, and Red has no choice but to face it head-on. Red manages to defeat it, but sensing that it may not be fully dead, she decides to enter the seemingly lifeless carcass. Inside, she finds the beast's heart, which is still beating. Using that Transistor, she cuts the heart in 2. As she exits, the Transistor returns to normal, as does the man trapped inside. With the Spine slain, there is now nothing standing between them and their goal. And so, they finally reach their destination, the Camerata hideout, also known as the Concourse. To their surprise, they're able to just waltz through the outer gate. As they get closer, they receive a personal message from one of the Camerata members, Asher Kendall. He says that he and Grant have been waiting for them, and that he would love to let them in, however he can't do that. In order to protect themselves from the rampaging process, they seal themselves behind a massive locked door. If Red wants to talk to them, she'll have to open it. As Red and her companion approach to inspect the sealed gate, they receive another message from Asher. This time he's trying to shed light on why the Camerata did what they did.
When everything changes, nothing changes. That's the Camerata's creed, our mission. We love our city the way it is. We didn't want to see it fade because someone out there didn't like the color of the sky. Everything we did, everything we're doing, is for Cloudbank.
Shortly after that, they receive another even more confusing message. However, this one isn't addressed directly to Red, this one is addressed to every citizen in Cloudbank. Speaking on behalf of the whole Camerata, Asher takes responsibility for everything that's happened. He even names his accomplices and says that they alone are to blame. Confused, Red writes to Asher and asks if they were not trying to do this, then what were they trying to achieve? Whilst heading into the maintenance area to release the first lock, they receive their reply. Asher informs them that they have lost control of the process and that they were hoping that they could control it even without the Transistor. However, that didn't quite work. Red replies and asks him why they attacked her in the first place. After all, had it not been for that, they would still be in possession of the Transistor. Shortly thereafter, Asher gets back to them yet again. He says that Red was one of many individuals that they targeted, all of them handpicked. They wanted their perspective, to be able to give the people what they didn't know they wanted. He also asks what 4 individuals could hope to accomplish with only their 4 voices. He says that they found their answer, and Red is holding it in her hand. Red asks why Asher seems to be speaking on behalf of Grant. Why can't Grant just talk to her himself? Like clockwork, Asher soon replies to answer their question. Apparently, Grant is not well, and hasn't been so since Red took the transistor from him. Asher says that as soon as she sees him, she will understand. Soon after this, Red finds and releases the second lock. They head for the top of the tower, where Grant and Asher are supposedly waiting. When they get there, they find both men dead. As a parting gift, Asher left one final message.
I couldn't stay to meet with you in person. Grant, he couldn't wait any longer. Why he would leave me? I'd sooner take an eternity in the Transistor. But he was no longer seeing straight. Or perhaps he'd decided he'd seen enough. We knew the stakes of what we wanted to accomplish. And we knew that if we were to fail, we would do so together. As one. See you in the country.
After listening to the message, the Transistor absorbs Grant's and Asher's traces. They discover that the key to stopping the process can be found in the part of the city known as Fairview. There they will also find the final member of the Camerata, an engineer by the name of Royce Brackett. Using a swarm of tame process units, they make their way back across town. During their flight, the man trapped inside the Transistor admits that he might have been wrong about the Camerata. He realizes that they wanted to change things for the better, but somewhere along the way, they got greedy and lost control. He hopes they'll find the answers they're looking for once they locate Royce. Fairview is located fairly close to where Red and her lover ended up after the attack, so they make their way back to the empty set in order to retrace their steps. When they get there, they realize that things have changed quite a bit since they were last here. The process infection has now spread to the point where it's covering, well, everything. Perhaps even more alarming, every single seat in the empty set is now occupied by a process unit. However, they don't seem hostile. In fact, they seem to be expecting a show. Even if Red just starts humming a little, the process units will actually applaud her. Or as close to clapping as you can get when you're a robot without any arms. The process seem to be more powerful than ever, as they've been upgrading themselves throughout the course of the story. However, they genuinely seem uninterested in any conflict. To a certain extent, obviously. As they move through the streets now turned completely white, Red and her companion come across some disturbing news reports. One of them say that Red is now presumed dead, as she has not been seen since the outbreak. The other one contains the last words of the anchor who's been reporting on the various incidents. She has been trapped, and she knows that she's not going to be able to survive this. The city really is on its last leg. It's around this time that they come in contact with a new spy. And like last time, it sends the Transistor into a disoriented state. Hoping to avoid another direct conflict with the monster, Red decides to hightail it. She heads for the bike they used to get here last time. She fights her way through numerous waves of process units. Eventually, she breaks through and makes it to the spot where they left the bike last time. Here, however, she comes face to face with a new enemy, a process-infected human. Up until this point, the corruption of Sybil Rice had been the anomaly. It seems now, however, that whatever kind of creature she became, it's no longer a rarity. Red manages to dispatch it, however, and jumps on the bike yet again. As they put some distance between them and the spine, the Transistor returns to normal. He decides to re-emphasize a point, something he said while the spine was messing with his head. He said that he wanted to see Red again, face to face. And even though he was groggy, he well and truly meant it. While searching for Royce, they come across some new terminals. However, something appears to have changed. It no longer displays a poll, it displays a choice. Red just has to pick her preference, and just like that, the city changes to fit her choice. As the man in the Transistor puts it, she has the key to the city. As they approach Fairview, Royce makes himself known, however he does not appear in person. Instead, he communicates with Red and her companion through some sort of monitor. He says that if possible he would like to call a truce, as he has no desire to see the process completely ruin the town either. They follow Royce's little device towards Fairview. As they pass the spot where the man trapped inside the Transistor's body is supposed to be, they realize that it's no longer there. Like all other things, it seems to have been consumed by the process. As they approach, they realize that there is no real way to get to Fairview from here. Royce, however, tells them that since Red has the Transistor, she can basically do whatever she wants with it. Like building a bridge, for example. Red accesses a nearby terminal, and sure enough, she's given the option to build a bridge to Fairview. As they approach Fairview, Royce informs them that the process cannot be stopped, per se. It can, however, be convinced to go elsewhere. Upon leaving, it would leave Cloudbank as a blank canvas, and the transistor would be its paintbrush. He further reinforces the point previously made by Asher, that the Camerata wanted things to change, however what they see before them is not what they had in mind. He also states that the process is currently just performing a task, although he very much preferred it when it did his tasks. He says that he let Grant borrow them from him, but nothing really went as they had planned. He also reveals that when a change needed to be enacted on the city, the process were the ones doing the work behind the scenes. He thought the ones doing the actual work should also get the actual credit, and so he says that he found a way to give the process center stage. Presumably, he found a way to use the transistor. He also states that even though he studied it extensively, he has no idea what's actually inside the transistor. One thing he does know though is that entering the transistor is a one-way road. Once you're in it, there is no way for you to get out. As they travel on, Red's companion states that he has gotten quite complacent with his role, and that he could get used to being by her side like this, as her companion, her guide, and her weapon. Red keeps on moving, and eventually she comes face to face with Royce. He claims that the only way to stop the process is to return the transistor to something known as the cradle. Once this has been done, the process will go away. Royce is 100% certain of it. He also mentions that he would like the transistor back, very much so in fact. However, he realizes that Red is not gonna give it up. So for now, he'll just settle for not being wiped out of existence. Red follows his instructions and places the transistor in the cradle.
Let's see. The good news. Well, the process, I think we got it. Contained it. So, the town is going to be all right. It's just, well, someone's going to have to rebuild. But we flew a little close to the flame there, so now we're here, not there. We're stuck. And unfortunately, the only way back that I'm aware of is, well, unpleasant. So, let's get this over with.
Red faces off against Royce, and after a vicious struggle, she manages to defeat him.
Impossible. No, it can't. It can't be. God, please don't be God. Please don't.
Red escapes and manages to make it back to town. She and her companion realizes that in the wake of the process, the city is basically a blank canvas, like Royce said, and she still has the transistor, the paintbrush. She can rewrite the town into anything she wants. Her companion is eager to see what she wants to do with this newfound power. However, she decides to go to a place more important than any part of the city could ever be to her.
Oh. Look. That's not me. Not anymore. I'm still with you. But I'm not getting out of here. Red? Hey. What are you doing? Wait, what are you doing? Red. Don't you do it. Don't you dare. Don't do this. Please. If you do this. Red, please don't. Wait. Red! Red. No, Red. What you doing? No, Red, no.
Red was not interested in wielding all the power in the world if this meant that she could not be with the one she loved. And with this final act, they can finally meet again, face to face, just like he wanted.
Hi.
Hey.
Thank you so much for watching this story summary. If you're interested in this game, I have done 2 additional videos on it. The first one is a review of the game's story. I mentioned it already at the beginning of the video, but I'm gonna put a link to it here as well. And in the other one, I speculate on some story elements that are not flat out explained, like the nature of Cloudbank and what really was the end goal of the Camerata. Thank you again ever so much for watching. If you enjoyed the video, then you're more than welcome to leave a thumbs up. And if you enjoy the kind of videos I'm making and you want to see more of them, then you can always subscribe. And finally, if you have a game that you'd like me to do a summary of, then please leave it in the comment section. Take care folks, and I hope to catch you later.